The morning after the attack was quiet. Lyra walked outside and saw the city changed. Buildings were damaged and some streets were still blocked, but people were already working together to fix everything. Humans and Aurelians picked up broken glass, carried bricks, and cleaned up the mess side by side. There was still sadness in the air, but there was hope too. Lyra and Ethan helped where they could. Megan joined them, and together they passed out food and water. Sometimes people stopped Lyra in the street. They thanked her for what she did in the shelter. Some Aurelians called her brave. Some humans asked her questions about her world and wanted to learn more. For the first time, Lyra did not feel like an outsider. News about the attack and the shelter spread quickly. Reporters wanted to talk to Lyra. She gave a few short interviews, always speaking about the importance of kindness and working together. When someone called her a hero, Lyra shook her head. "We are all heroes when we help each other," she said softly. Soon after, leaders from both worlds came to the city to see the damage and talk about what to do next. Lyra and Ethan were invited to meet them. Lyra felt nervous as she walked into the big meeting room. She remembered the first time she had attended such an event, how alone and unsure she had felt. Now Ethan was at her side, and she felt steady. The leaders thanked Lyra and Ethan for what they had done. One leader, a woman from Earth named Carla, spoke directly to Lyra. "You brought peace to a frightened place. You showed us that being gentle is a kind of strength. You have helped us all see that the alliance between our worlds is possible." The Aurelian Emperor, her own father, sent a message from far away. He said he was proud of her and called her my brave daughter. Lyra felt her eyes fill with happy tears. All the doubt and fear she had carried in her heart began to melt away. For so long, she had wanted to prove herself, to show she was more than just an undeserving princess. Now she saw that glory could come in many shapes. It was not always about medals or titles. Sometimes it was about doing the right thing. Even when it was hard. After the meeting, Lyra and Ethan walked through the city. People waved at them. Children came up to Lyra and asked her to tell stories about her world. Lyra smiled and knelt beside them. She told them about the silver gardens and the glowing moons of her home, about her pet bird and the gentle nights in the palace. The children listened with wide eyes, and some said they wanted to visit the Aurelian Empire one day. As weeks passed, the city grew strong again. People remembered the hard days, but they also remembered how everyone had come together. New friendships grew between humans and Aurelians. There were more celebrations and shared meals. Lyra and Ethan were always welcome, not just as guests but as family. One evening, there was a big celebration in the city park. Lanterns hung from the trees, and music played from every corner. Lyra wore a dress from her home, and Megan braided her hair with tiny blue flowers. Ethan stood with her, smiling proudly. A young girl handed Lyra a drawing she had made. It showed humans and Aurelians holding hands, standing in front of the city. Lyra smiled and hugged the girl. "This is the future," she said. Later, as the stars appeared in the sky, Ethan and Lyra walked away from the crowd and found a quiet bench. They sat together, listening to the music and the sound of laughter. Ethan looked at Lyra and said, "When I first met you, I saw someone kind and gentle. Now I see someone strong and wise, too. You changed so much, Lyra. I am proud of you." Lyra looked at Ethan, her heart full of happiness. "I was always afraid I was not good enough," she said. "But now I see that I do not have to be like anyone else. I just have to be myself." Ethan took her hand. "You are more than enough. You are my partner, and you are the pride of two worlds." Lyra smiled. She thought about her old life, her family, and the many things she had learned. She knew there would still be hard days, but now she had a place where she belonged. She was not just a gentle princess, or the outsider, or the wife of a human. She was Lyra, loved by many and strong in her own way. As the city lights shone below them and the stars glowed above, Lyra knew her journey was just beginning. With Ethan by her side, she was ready for whatever came next. She had found her glory, not in being someone else, but in being true to herself. One morning, the city woke up to the sound of alarms. Lyra heard the sirens from the kitchen window. She looked outside and saw people running in the streets. The sky was full of strange ships, and loud voices shouted through speakers, warning everyone to stay indoors. Ethan rushed into the room, his face serious. He turned on the news. The screen showed scenes of chaos. A group called the Unity Front, made of humans and Aurelians who hated the new alliance, had started an attack. They wanted to break the peace between the two worlds. Their ships fired at government buildings, and their fighters ran through streets shouting angry words. Lyra's heart pounded in her chest. She remembered her old fear, the feeling of being different and not belonging. But now the danger was real. Ethan took her hand. "We have to help people," he said. "We cannot just hide." Megan called from the next room. She had already helped a neighbor bring her children inside. Lyra saw fear in Megan's eyes, but also courage. Together, the three of them decided to go to the local shelter, where many people were gathering for safety. The walk to the shelter was frightening. Broken glass was on the streets. Lyra saw fires burning in the distance. People hurried past, carrying bags and holding their children close. Megan led the way, and Ethan watched for danger. When they reached the shelter, they found a crowd inside. Humans and Aurelians sat together, some hurt and others crying. The city's leaders were not there, and nobody knew what to do next. Lyra looked around. She saw people who needed hope. She thought about the lessons she had learned, the value of listening, of staying calm, of helping others even when afraid. A loud noise shook the building. Some people screamed, and children cried. Lyra stood up and spoke in a clear voice, trying to sound brave even when she felt scared inside. "We must stay together. We will be safe if we help each other." Some people listened. Others shook their heads, afraid that nothing would help. Ethan walked beside Lyra and spoke too. "We cannot leave the shelter now. We must make sure everyone has food and water. Let's work together." People began to calm down. Megan found a first aid kit and started to help the injured. Lyra found a small child crying in a corner. She knelt beside the girl and spoke gently. "You are not alone. I will stay with you." The girl stopped crying and held Lyra's hand. The day was long and hard. News from outside was bad. The Unity Front had damaged many important buildings. The city's leaders had gone into hiding, and nobody knew if help would come. As night fell, a group of Unity Front fighters tried to break into the shelter. They shouted at the doors, demanding that everyone inside surrender. Lyra saw fear on every face. She knew she had to do something. She stood in front of the crowd, her silver skin shining in the dim light. She spoke loudly so the people outside could hear. "We want peace. We are not your enemies. We are only people who want to live together." For a moment, there was silence. The fighters outside argued among themselves. Some shouted back at Lyra, but others began to listen. Then, something surprising happened. One of the Unity Front members, a young Aurelian, called out, "Why do you speak for them? You are not like us." Lyra stepped forward, her heart beating fast. "I am Aurelian, and I am also family to humans. I have learned that being different does not mean being enemies. We are stronger together than apart." The fighters seemed unsure. Some turned away. Others lowered their weapons. Lyra's courage gave the people inside the shelter hope. They stood up and spoke too, asking for peace, not war. After a long, tense night, help finally arrived. The city's peace officers, with the help of other brave people, pushed back the Unity Front fighters. The shelter doors opened, and everyone inside was safe. Lyra felt relief, but also sadness for the pain the attack had caused. She hugged Ethan and Megan, grateful that they were safe. The people in the shelter thanked Lyra for her bravery. Some said she had saved them by speaking up and not giving in to fear. As the sun rose, the city began to heal. People came together to fix what was broken. Humans and Aurelians worked side by side, inspired by what they saw in the shelter. Lyra realized that her gentle heart, once seen as weakness, was now a source of strength for many. She knew there would always be people who did not understand, but now, more than ever, she believed in herself and the power of hope. Ethan took her hand and said softly, "You are my hero." Lyra smiled, feeling for the first time that she truly belonged not just to one world, but to both. Lyra woke the next morning to sunlight pouring through the curtains. It felt different now that the artifact was safe. The story of how Lyra and Ethan helped find the missing cube spread quickly. People from both Earth and the Aurelian Empire sent messages of thanks. Some people who once doubted Lyra now looked at her with new eyes. Even with the artifact returned, things did not change overnight. At an official ceremony, an older Aurelian noble received public praise for keeping the peace. Lyra stood at the edge of the room, listening quietly as the leader thanked others for their dedication and courage. Nobody spoke her name. Some humans in the room glanced at Lyra and Ethan, but did not say anything. Ethan was upset for her. He spoke quietly. "They should have thanked you. Everyone knows you are the one who helped the most." Lyra touched his hand and shook her head. She whispered, "It does not matter. The peace is what matters most." When they returned home, Megan hugged Lyra. "I heard what you did. I am proud of you. Even if others do not give you credit, we all know the truth." Lyra smiled, grateful for Megan's support. The next day, Lyra went to the museum with Ethan. The crystal cube was back in its place, shining under the lights. A group of children stood nearby, listening as a teacher told them the story of how the cube was found and returned. The teacher's story did not mention Lyra or Ethan. It was just a simple tale about brave people who help. Lyra watched the children's faces and thought that it was enough that they felt safe again. Later, as Lyra walked through the city with Ethan, she noticed more people smiling at her. Some shopkeepers greeted her by name. Others nodded politely. It was small, but it made her feel that she was finally part of this place. For so long, she had worried that she would never belong, but now she felt hope. One afternoon, Megan took Lyra to a local market. Lyra saw all kinds of food and colorful things for sale. Megan introduced her to some friends. They asked Lyra to teach them how to make Aurelian tea. She showed them, and soon they were all laughing as they tried to copy her. Lyra realized that she could share her own culture and be proud of it. Ethan watched Lyra from a distance and saw the way she smiled and laughed. He thought about how much she had changed since she first arrived. He was proud of her for being strong and gentle at the same time. That evening, as the sky grew dark, Lyra and Ethan walked home together. Ethan asked, "Do you miss your old life?" Lyra thought for a moment. She said, "I miss some things, like my garden and the way the moonlight looked on the palace walls. But I have found new things here, your family, new friends, and a place where I can help others." Ethan squeezed her hand and smiled. "You have helped more than you know." Lyra did not care much about fame or praise, but Ethan did. He wanted people to know the truth. He sent a message to a local news group, telling them how Lyra had helped find the artifact and stop a bigger problem. At first, Lyra did not know. When she found out, she was surprised, but Ethan smiled and said, "You deserve to be seen." A few days later, a news reporter came to interview Lyra and Ethan. The reporter asked many questions, and Lyra answered honestly but simply. She spoke about working together, being patient, and trusting each other. When the story came out, many people read it. Lyra was surprised by how many kind messages she received from both humans and Aurelians. One message stood out to her. It was from a young Aurelian girl who wrote, "I want to be gentle like you. Thank you for showing me that it is good to be kind." Lyra smiled and felt proud in her heart. She realized that helping others could mean more than any medal or Ceremony. Life began to feel more normal. Lyra still had days when she missed home or felt uncertain, but she knew now that she was strong in her own way. She had learned that true glory was not about praise or titles. It was about helping others and staying true to herself. As the days passed, Lyra continued to work with Ethan and Megan. They helped people in their city, shared stories, and learned from each other. Lyra found a new peace inside her. She was no longer just a gentle princess or the outsider. She was a friend, a helper, and a bridge between two worlds. Lyra could not believe what had happened at the embassy. She was tired but could not rest. Her mind kept returning to Reynolds' words and the way he had looked at the piece of cloth. She wondered if he really had something to do with the missing artifact, or if someone else was involved. She knew that the cube was important, and she wanted to do everything she could to help find it. Ethan wanted to protect Lyra, but he saw that she was determined. He told her, "You are stronger than you think." Lyra nodded, but she still felt nervous. She wanted to believe him, but she was not sure yet. The next morning, 2 Aurelian guards came to their house. They had news. The cloth Lyra found matched the robe of one of the embassy workers. The guards said they were looking into everyone who had access to the museum and the embassy at night. Lyra listened carefully and thanked them. She felt hope rising in her chest. Later, Megan made tea for everyone. She sat with Lyra and tried to make her feel calm. "You are doing a good job," Megan said. "You did not give up when people were against you." Lyra smiled, grateful for Megan's kindness. She wished she could be as brave as Ethan, and Megan. Ethan decided to help more. He asked the guards for a list of people who worked late hours at the embassy. Together, he and Lyra went through the list, looking for names they did not know. Lyra noticed one name that seemed familiar, Tovin. She remembered seeing him once at a palace event, but she had never spoken to him. Ethan and Lyra went to the embassy again. This time, they asked to see Tovin. He was a young man with sharp eyes and quick hands. When Lyra and Ethan talked to him, Tovin seemed nervous. He said he knew nothing about the cube, but he kept looking at the floor and touching his sleeve. Lyra watched him carefully. She saw that his robe was torn at the edge, just like the piece of cloth she had found. She showed him the cloth. Tovin's face turned pale. He tried to walk away, but one of the guards blocked the door. "Why did you take the cube?" Lyra asked softly. She did not sound angry, just sad. Tovin looked around the room. Finally, he spoke. "Reynolds promised me a better job if I took the cube. He said it would help our people. I did not want to do it, but he forced me." Ethan looked at Lyra. They both knew that Tovin was not the true villain, but he was part of the problem. The guards took Tovin away, and Lyra felt a strange mix of sadness and relief. That night, Lyra could not sleep. She went out into the garden behind the house and looked up at the stars. She remembered her home, her father, and all the people who had said she was not good enough. She wanted to prove that she could do the right thing, even if she was not a warrior. Suddenly, she had an idea. She went inside and woke Ethan. "We need to check the embassy records," she said. "If Reynolds wanted the cube, he must have sent messages to someone else. Maybe there is a clue." Ethan agreed. They called the Aurelian guards and asked if they could help. The guards said they would let Lyra and Ethan look at the computer records in the embassy office. The next day, Lyra and Ethan went to the embassy once more. The office was quiet, and the guards stood by the door. Lyra sat at the computer and searched for messages between Reynolds and Tovin. She found a hidden file. When she opened it, she saw messages from Reynolds to someone else, talking about the cube and how to get it out of the museum. Lyra showed the messages to the guards. They thanked her for her help and said they would use the evidence to question Reynolds again. Lyra felt proud. She was not a fighter, but she had used her mind and her patience to help. Later that day, the guards found the missing artifact hidden in a storage room at the embassy. They returned the cube to the museum, and both humans and Aurelians were glad. People thanked Ethan and Lyra for their hard work. Lyra was surprised by the kind words. For the first time, people looked at her with respect, not doubt. Ethan hugged Lyra. "You did it," he said. "You proved everyone wrong." Lyra smiled. She felt stronger and happier than ever before. She had helped save the artifact and stopped a fight between worlds. She saw now that bravery was not always about fighting. Sometimes it was about not giving up, even when things were hard. As the sun set over the city, Lyra sat with Ethan and Megan, feeling at peace. She knew there would be more challenges ahead, but she was ready to face them. She was not just a gentle princess anymore. She was part of something bigger, and she was proud of what she had done. Lyra woke up early, sunlight shining softly through the window of Ethan's house. Earth was slowly starting to feel less strange, but every day still brought something new. Lyra tried her best to learn about human ways. She listened to Megan talk about her work at the library and helped Ethan with small things around the house. Even simple tasks like watering the plants or folding clothes felt different here. One morning, Ethan came into the kitchen with a worried look. He told Lyra that something important had happened. An ancient artifact from the Aurelian Empire had gone missing. This artifact, a small crystal cube, was not just old and beautiful. It was important for both Aurelians and humans, a symbol of their new friendship. Now it was lost, and both sides were upset. Soon, news of the missing artifact spread. Some people whispered that it was Lyra's fault. They said she was not careful enough, that maybe she did not respect human customs. Others from her own world accused her of forgetting her people, now that she was living on Earth. Lyra felt pain in her chest. She had nothing to do with the missing cube, but nobody wanted to listen. Officials from both worlds met in a big white building to talk about what to do next. Lyra and Ethan were asked to attend. The room was full of serious faces. Some people glared at Lyra, and she lowered her eyes. One of the Aurelian nobles, a tall man named Rinnel, spoke loudly. He said, "This would not have happened if we had sent a true Aurelian princess, someone who understands our ways." Ethan squeezed Lyra's hand under the table. "Lyra is a true princess," he said, his voice calm but strong. "She would never do anything to harm either world." Some people nodded, but others still looked doubtful. After the meeting, Lyra and Ethan walked home in silence. Lyra's heart was heavy. She felt lost, and she was afraid that no matter what she did, it would never be enough. Ethan tried to cheer her up. "Don't listen to them," he said. "We will find the truth together." That night, Lyra could not sleep. She thought about the cube and the things people had said. She decided to try and help. Early the next morning, she and Ethan went to the museum where the artifact had been displayed. The room was closed, and 2 guards stood by the door. Ethan spoke to them, showing his identification. The guards let them inside. The room was quiet and full of dust. Lyra walked around, looking for any sign that might help. She noticed a small piece of dark cloth caught on the edge of a glass display case. She picked it up and showed Ethan. "This is not from my dress or yours," she said softly. Ethan nodded, taking the cloth and looking at it closely. They spent hours looking for clues. At last, Ethan found a small hidden camera in the corner. He asked the museum staff to show them the video. They watched as a shadowy figure entered the room late at night, moving quickly. The thief wore a long coat and gloves, and their face was hidden. But Lyra saw something familiar in the way the person moved. She could not explain it, but she felt sure it was someone from her own world. The next day, Lyra and Ethan went to the Aurelian embassy. There, they asked to speak with Rinnel, the noble who had spoken against Lyra. At first, he refused, but after Ethan insisted, Rinnel agreed to meet them in his office. Lyra showed him the piece of cloth. Rinnel looked at it, then looked away quickly. His face changed for just a moment, and Lyra saw fear. "Why did you speak against me?" Lyra asked quietly. Rinnel answered, his voice hard. You do not belong. Here, princes. You are weak, and you let humans make you soft. Our empire needs strength. Ethan stood up. We all want peace. Taking the cube will only hurt both worlds. Reynold did not answer. Instead, he turned and pressed a small button on his desk. 2 guards entered, but Ethan acted fast. He blocked the door and shouted for help. In the confusion, Lyra took the piece of cloth and pressed it into the hand of one of the guards. "This is a clue," she said. "Look at it." The truth is important. The guards looked at Reynold unsure. Lyra spoke again, her voice shaking but clear. "If you want to serve the Empire, help us find the real thief. We need peace, not more." Anger. Finally, the guards agreed to check the clue. Reynold was taken away for questioning. Lyra and Ethan left the embassy, tired but hopeful. For the first time, Lyra felt she had done something important. She had stood up for herself and for what was right. As they walked back home, Ethan put his arm around Lyra. "You were brave today," he said softly. Lyra smiled a little. Maybe she was changing after all. Maybe she could be more than the gentle princess. Maybe she could help bring peace, one small step at a time. Lyra felt her heart beat faster as the ship landed on Earth. She looked out the window and saw green fields, blue skies, and a city full of tall buildings. It was so different from her home. When the door opened, a wave of new smells and sounds rushed inside. People spoke in loud voices. Cars moved fast on the roads. It was all so busy, and Lyra felt small in this new world. Ethan stood beside her. He noticed how nervous she was, so he gently placed his hand on her arm. "You will be safe here," he said. Lyra tried to believe him, but her hand shook. She was scared that people would look at her and see only her silver skin and strange blue eyes. She did not want to be different, but she was. They walked outside. A small group of humans waited for them. A woman with short brown hair waved and smiled. Ethan smiled back and hugged her. "Lyra, this is my sister, Megan." Ethan sighed. Megan stepped forward and held out her hand. Lyra looked at it for a moment, then took it, feeling the warmth. Megan's eyes were friendly, and she spoke kindly. "Welcome to Earth, Lyra. I hope you like it here." Lyra tried to smile. It was hard, but Megan's kindness made it easier. They got into a car and drove to Ethan's home. Lyra watched the world go by. She saw children playing in parks, people talking on the streets, and shops filled with colors and sounds. Everything was new. Everything felt strange. When they reached Ethan's house, Megan opened the door and showed Lyra around. The house was not very big, but it was full of light. There were flowers on the table and soft chairs by the window. Lyra saw pictures of Ethan's family on the walls. She felt a little better. That night, Megan cooked a meal for them. She made simple food, bread, soup, and something sweet for dessert. Lyra had never tasted anything like it. She thanked Megan, and Megan smiled, saying it was her pleasure. Ethan watched them and looked happy. Lyra felt a little less afraid. The next day, Lyra and Ethan had to go to a big event at the city hall. Important people from Earth and the Aurelian Empire were there. Lyra wore a dress from her home, but she worried it made her look even more different. When they arrived, people stared at her. Some whispered, and Lyra could hear the words alien and princess. She kept her eyes on the floor and walked close to Ethan. During the event, Lyra tried to speak with other guests, but many turned away or spoke only to Ethan. Some smiled politely but did not really see her. Lyra's heart ached. She felt alone, just like she had at home. She wanted to run away, but Ethan squeezed her hand and whispered, "You belong here. Don't listen to them." After the event, Ethan took Lyra outside to a small park. He sat with her on a bench and let her breathe in the fresh air. "It's hard at first," Ethan said softly. "People need time to understand. When I first visited your world, I was afraid too." Lyra nodded. "I want to make friends, but I do not know how." Ethan smiled. "Just be yourself. The right people will see who you are. He told her about his own struggles when he was young, how he was shy and quiet, and how he found his place by being kind and patient. Days passed. Lyra tried to learn about Earth. She watched people, listened to their music, and asked questions about their lives. Megan helped her with words she did not know. Sometimes they laughed together, and Lyra felt lighter. Still, not everyone was friendly. At another gathering, a group of humans made jokes about her silver skin. They thought she did not understand, but she did. She felt tears in her eyes and wanted to leave. Ethan saw her sadness and stood up for her. "Lyra is my wife," he said clearly. "She is brave and good. If you cannot see that, it is your loss." The room went quiet. Lyra felt thankful for Ethan's words. One evening, Megan invited a few friends over. At first, they were unsure how to speak with Lyra, but when she showed them how to make a simple Aurelian dessert, they became curious. They asked her questions, and soon they were all laughing together. For the first time, Lyra felt that she could be herself. The more time Lyra spent on Earth, the more she saw that people could be kind or unkind, just like at home. She started to believe Ethan's words. She did not have to be someone else. Maybe, if she stayed true to herself, others would see her heart. She began to hope again, even in this strange new world. Lyra sat alone in the silver garden of the palace. The leaves glowed under the 3 moons, and the air was quiet. She knew she should feel lucky. She was a princess. But everyone whispered that she did not deserve it. Lyra was not strong like her sisters. She did not train for battle. She liked to read and help the old healers in the quiet rooms. Some people thought she was too soft to be royal. They called her the gentle princess when they thought she could not hear. Lyra wished she could be different, but she was just herself. Her father, Emperor Cowden, never spoke about it, but Lyra could see the worry in his eyes. He wanted his daughters to be warriors, but Lyra could not change who she was. Now he had found a way to use her. He planned to marry her to a human from Earth. The humans were new friends of the Empire. They had strong ships and strange ways. Lyra did not know anything about humans, except that they were clever and could be kind. The day before her wedding, Lyra met the man who would be her husband. His name was Ethan Carter. He stood in the bright hall with his hands folded and eyes wide open, as if the palace amazed him. Ethan was not very tall or very strong, but he looked brave and calm. He wore a simple suit. When he saw Lyra, he smiled, and his eyes were gentle. Lyra felt nervous. She bowed to him, and he bowed back, a little awkward but with respect. He spoke softly. "Hello, Princess Lyra. I am glad to meet you." His voice was warm. Lyra found it hard to look at him. She remembered all the things people said about her. She wondered if he knew that he was marrying the undeserving Princess. Ethan did not act like he knew. He tried to talk about small things, the sky, the food, the journey from Earth. Lyra listened, and after a while, she answered in her quiet voice. Ethan did not make fun of her or seem angry that she was not like the other Aurelians. When they sat down together, Lyra felt a small hope grow in her heart. Maybe humans were different. On the day of the wedding, the palace was filled with light and color. Strange music played as humans and Aurelians sat together. Lyra wore a dress made from silver threads and blue crystals. She walked with her father to the center of the hall. Ethan waited for her, looking nervous but smiling. The ceremony was simple. Both of them promised to respect each other and work for peace between their peoples. When it was over, Ethan took Lyra's hand and squeezed it gently. Lyra felt his kindness, and for a moment, she forgot her fear. After the ceremony, Lyra and Ethan were taken to a spaceship that would bring them to Earth. The ship was much smaller than the palace, but it was quiet and clean. Lyra sat by the window, watching the stars. Ethan sat across from her, drinking something warm from a cup. He tried to make her feel comfortable. He spoke softly and asked her questions about her life. Lyra was shy at first, but soon she found herself telling Ethan about her garden, about the book she loved, and about her pet bird. Ethan listened to every word. He told her about his home on Earth, about his mother and his sister Megan, and about the green hills near his city. As the ship flew through space, Lyra started to relax. She began to think that maybe this marriage would not be as hard as she thought. Ethan did not seem to care that she was not a warrior or a leader. He just treated her as a friend. But Lyra could not forget what waited for her on Earth. She had heard stories about humans, some good, some bad. She knew some people on Earth might not like her. She worried that she would not fit in, just as she did not fit in with her own people. As the stars passed by outside, Lyra looked at Ethan. He smiled at her again, and she smiled back just a little. For the first time, she felt a small spark of hope. Maybe, with Ethan's help, she could find her place in the universe. Maybe she was not so undeserving after all. Lyra sat alone in the silver garden of the palace. The leaves glowed under the 3 moons, and the air was quiet. She knew she should feel lucky. She was a princess, but everyone whispered that she did not deserve it. Lyra was not strong like her sisters. She did not train for battle. She liked to read and help the old healers in the quiet rooms. Some people thought she was too soft to be royal. They called her the gentle princess when they thought she could not hear. Lyra wished she could be different, but she was just herself. Her father, Emperor Cowden, never spoke about it, but Lyra could see the worry in his eyes. He wanted his daughters to be warriors, but Lyra could not change who she was. Now he had found a way to use her. He planned to marry her to a human from Earth. The humans were new friends of the Empire. They had strong ships and strange ways. Lyra did not know anything about humans, except that they were clever and could be kind. The day before her wedding, Lyra met the man who would be her husband. His name was Ethan Carter. He stood in the bright hall with his hands folded and eyes wide open, as if the palace amazed him. Ethan was not very tall or very strong, but he looked brave and calm. He wore a simple suit. When he saw Lyra, he smiled, and his eyes were gentle. Lyra felt nervous. She bowed to him, and he bowed back, a little awkward but with respect. He spoke softly. "Hello, Princess Lyra. I am glad to meet you." His voice was warm. Lyra found it hard to look at him. She remembered all the things people said about her. She wondered if he knew that he was marrying the undeserving princess. Ethan did not act like he knew. He tried to talk about small things, the sky, the food, the journey from Earth. Lyra listened, and after a while, she answered in her quiet voice. Ethan did not make fun of her or seem angry that she was not like the other Aurelians. When they sat down together, Lyra felt a small hope grow in her heart. Maybe humans were different. On the day of the wedding, the palace was filled with light and color. Strange music played as humans and Aurelians sat together. Lyra wore a dress made from silver threads and blue crystals. She walked with her father to the center of the hall. Ethan waited for her, looking nervous but smiling. The ceremony was simple. Both of them promised to respect each other and work for peace between their peoples. When it was over, Ethan took Lyra's hand and squeezed it gently. Lyra felt his kindness, and for a moment, she forgot her fear. After the ceremony, Lyra and Ethan were taken to a spaceship that would bring them to Earth. The ship was much smaller than the palace, but it was quiet and clean. Lyra sat by the window, watching the stars. Ethan sat across from her, drinking something warm from a cup. He tried to make her feel comfortable. He spoke softly and asked her questions about her life. Lyra was shy at first, but soon she found herself telling Ethan about her garden, about the book she loved, and about her pet bird. Ethan listened to every word. He told her about his home on Earth, about his mother and his sister Megan, and about the green hills near his city. As the ship flew through space, Lyra started to relax. She began to think that maybe this marriage would not be as hard as she thought. Ethan did not seem to care that she was not a warrior or a leader. He just treated her as a friend. But Lyra could not forget what waited for her on Earth. She had heard stories about humans, some good, some bad. She knew some people on Earth might not like her. She worried that she would not fit in, just as she did not fit in with her own people. As the stars passed by outside, Lyra looked at Ethan. He smiled at her again, and she smiled back, just a little. For the first time, she felt a small spark of hope. Maybe, with Ethan's help, she could find her place in the universe. Maybe she was not so undeserving after all.